Hi all, so what is this presentation all about? Well, it's about some best practices for solving programming interview questions. What I'll show you here is a few techniques, about 10, which you can apply to any interview questions and mainly to questions which involve some computer science, algorithms, and data structures inside them, but you can take these concepts and apply them to other questions. So let's begin. So basically what I want to tell you is that it's much easier than you think. In many cases you're going to be presented with some algorithmic or data structures question or some riddle maybe that you will first think you have no idea. Well, if you have an idea and you know how to solve it or you have your way of solving it, then it's okay, move on. But if you are clueless or you are feeling you are stuck, then you can use these techniques and this will make answering the questions much easier. So let's begin with the first tip. Well, the first tip I'm going to tell you is that when you have no clue, you don't know what to do or under a panic attack, then brute force. Brute force the question. I mean, every question, most questions, not every, but there are many questions whom you can brute force. I mean, a for loop inside a for loop inside a for loop, nested loops. Do whatever you can to brute force it. Show that you can manage with the questions and say, I know this is a brute force, the time efficiency it's not good, it's O n to the third, you know your business, and from this you move further and try to make it more efficient, but at least you got yourself going on, moving on with the question. You are not stuck in silence and you're getting to know the question and you are more familiar with it. In this way, when you're more familiar with the questions, you can move on and find better things to do with the questions. So you can take your brute force answer and try to see where do you spend much time, where is it not efficient, and if you improve these sections, this means you'll be able to come closer to the actual question, just to the actual answer. Just ask yourself, where can I improve my answer? Here is an example, and there are many snippets of a brute force technique. In this specific example, we are taking all the continuous subsequences of an array. So we have a for loop, inside the for loop, inside the for loop. This is nested, and this is O(n) to the third. And we're just printing everything from start index to end index while we move the start index and the end index forward, so we get all the subsequences. Having said that, if you don't have a clue or don't know what to do, try to add space. Maybe think whether a hash map is suitable. In many cases, a hash map might even be the answer. So you can just take a hash map, apply it to the data structure, have some key value and see whether it helps. We are going to have examples on my blog, which is dev@rest@blogpost.com. I'll show you the address later of such cases, but I just want you to remember, try to add space. No one said you cannot add space. You first add the space and then ask them, can I add the space? After you, but given that you do this, you have an answer. You move forward and then try to optimize the space. Another technique is check whether you can massage the input. By massage the input, I mean sort the input. If you get an array, try to think, if I'm sorting this array, would the answer come out just? So maybe this is the answer. Maybe you should sort it. Try to massage the input. Try to do something with it. Try to manipulate it. One thing you could do, as we said, is just to sort it. See if it helps. You can think of other ways to massage the input. Okay, so I'm giving you more ideas. Check if the problem is easy for one item of input, two items of input. If it's very easy for this, maybe it's also easy for three. And then if you solve it for one and for two and for three, can you solve it then easily for four if you know that you solve it for free, apply this rule and see if it matches. You have a recursion. If you have recursion, solve the exercise with a recursion. Okay, another thing you could do, just data structures brainstorm. Which data structures do you know? Hashmap, we said. A set, we said. Maybe a heap, okay, maybe a binary tree. See, if you take the data structure they gave you and you manipulate it to be another data structure and you brainstorm on it, then see, maybe one of them applies to the questions and it will make the answer much easier. Just write. Okay, in many cases you might find that you need to do in a string some changes, manipulation to the string. What I suggest here is that you don't overcomplicate yourself with in-place string changes. I mean, you don't want to manipulate the string inside unless you feel you're secure and good about it, or this is the limitation of the question, then do it. But remember, you can copy the string to another place to start another string. But say it, say that you mean to do it, and ask them if it's okay if you copy the string. If they say yes, move on with this. Again, our focus is to move forward, to get more familiar with the question, to raise ideas, and when we do this, we get ideas, we get more familiar, and we are moving closer to the answer. Even if we are moving on the wrong direction, we might be optimizing it and moving with to the right place. In this case, we copied the string to a new one, we created a new one. We are not overcomplicating ourselves and stacking ourselves in string manipulation, and we are moving forward. Okay, when you need to write code on a whiteboard, then in order to make it easier for you to write it on the whiteboard, then first describe the algorithm in exact words to yourself, and then translate it to code. What I'm suggesting here is that if you need to write code on whiteboard, remember that the interviewer is not a compiler, which means you can make some assumptions and make the code easier on the whiteboard. For you to have the code, the writing of the code, the coding of the code easier on a whiteboard, which is not something you do daily, then I highly recommend describe first the algorithm in words. Maybe you write it on the whiteboard first in words, 1.1.2, this is what I'm going to do, these are my steps, and then translate it to code. This at least makes it easier for me to write code on a whiteboard. Maybe it will work also for you. Try it. Okay, here I want to give you another recipe, a recipe for a recursion. In a recursion, what we do is we take some input, we split it. Sometimes we split it to one item and the rest, but sometimes we split it just to left and right. We don't say here what is the left and what is the right. It doesn't have to be half to the left and half to the right. You just split the input, you get a smaller problem. This is step number one, you split the input. Step number two, you do apply the algorithm to the left side, which is now smaller. Step number 3, you apply the algorithm to the right side. This is the recursion. We are getting inside, applying the same algorithm to the right side. And then when we finish, we take the left and we take the right and we merge it and return the value. So you see, in 4 rows we explain very easily in general what is recursion, and you should surely remember this for interviews. Okay. Here is another tip. Let's say you need to cut a linked list in half. Why am I giving this? Because this is a recurrent theme. Here what you can do in a linked list is, instead of traversing it many times in order to cut it inside the half, what you do is you have 2 pointers. One pointer is slow and another pointer is fast. Let's say twice the velocity. You start moving them both, they both start at the same time, but remember one is moving double the velocity of the first pointer, which means it's doing dot next, while one of them is doing only dot next. When the dot next, the double velocity pointer reach the end, we have one pointer which is in the middle. In this way, with only 2 pointers, we manage to get the middle of a linked list. This is O of N. Okay, there are many useful coding snippets for interviews and you should study them. Why is that? Because you don't want to start answering a problem and then you need to think, how do I get to the middle of the list? How do I do recursion? You need to first build those basic building blocks. When you build them, then you can use them very easily in order to solve the question, and you concentrate the questions and not on the building blocks. This is very important. Study those little snippets. You can see them in the blog. I'll suggest you at the end, or in other places just Google for it over the internet. Okay, if you yourself have any tips or any patterns, please send them to me. If you have any comment about this video, please send it to me. I apologize about my accent. I hope I gave you some value. Please get back to me, comment, send me emails and feedback. And if you want to get more information about programming interviews, please visit my site dev@rest.blogpost.com. We think that developers should rest also while preparing for interviews. That's why I want to give you the basic building blocks. Please comment there, please reply, please talk to me. I'll be happy to know what you think about this one, and I'll be happy to provide you with more information as you ask for it. But if you want to ask for information, I will give it myself. Thank you and bye.